Hello and welcome to Showtime Central. We're your hosts, Affinity, May and Holly Wigmore on the Workshop Radio. As always, we'll be discussing all things arts and entertainment, giving you the latest on the dance, theatre, film and TV industry news. To delve into this week's episode, myself and Affinity are going to discuss some of our favourite movies in today's Film of the Week. So Finn, as always, would you like to kick us off?
Okay, so my film of the week this week is I See You.
I've not even heard of that.
You've not even heard of it?
No.
Okay, so I watched this on, I think it was Netflix.
Okay.
So not a cinema one this time. It's a 2019 American horror thriller film directed by Adam Randall from a screenplay by Devon Gray.
Ooh.
Recognise the names?
Honestly, no, but I am a fan for a thriller, so this sounds like one you're really enticing me with. Give me more.
Okay, so there's a detective called Greg Harper, who's played by John Tenney, and then a Dr. Jackie Harper, who's played by Helen Hunt.
Nice.
And they're going through like a difficult time in their marriage. She cheated on him. They have a son. So it just starts off with like the stereotypical, marriage is failing.
Yeah.
But during their personal life, things starts going weird at their house. Things like one of their mugs ended up on the roof, silverware disappears, pictures on the wall goes missing, and that
Definitely
sort of
something
stuff.
paranormal going on here.
Have you heard of the term frogging?
No.
Okay, so frogging's the act of like living in a person's home without them knowing.
Oh my god.
So
that is terrifying. That is such a terrifying
There's these like
thought.
two people and they're living in
the walls.
this house.
Oh
and
my god.
They start messing with them and taking things out.
I hate that.
This is the crazy part. So we're known to hate them because of this. Well, you are the villains, and they really start messing up the detective and the woman and the son. They like duct tape them at night, and it's really quite scary. And he wears a frog mask.
Oh,
and it's
my
so
god.
spooky.
Yeah.
At the beginning of this movie, a little boy goes missing, and so the detective, his job throughout all of this, whilst dealing with weird stuff, is looking for this missing boy.
Oh my goodness.
This is the crazy stuff. Towards the end, we find out that the detective is the one who, big spoiler alert.
Okay, I don't mind, but for those of you listening, spoiler warnings ahead.
He's the one who stole the boy. And the people frogging at their house, making their lives crazy, are actually one of the boys he was abused by this detective when he was younger and taken by him. And then all of a sudden, the entire storyline flips and we are on the side of the froggers.
Oh my
and
god,
we hate
plot
the detective.
twist.
It is crazy to me.
That is insane.
Honestly, Holly,
oh my
it.
goodness, I need to. Did you say this one's available on Netflix?
It is. It's available on Netflix. The plot twist is just crazy.
Wow,
and
yeah.
It was mind-blowing. Honestly, the first half hour of the film is like a generic build-up.
Yes.
The family fractured through dishonesty.
You feel like you're almost like, you can imagine the plot being like, I know what's going to happen here, but you really
And then all of a sudden the victims just become the bad
crazy.
guys. And the bad guys...
It completely does a 180.
I was just watching it and I was mind blown. But it was so good. I recommend, 100%.
I love that. So my film of the week this week, I don't know if you've heard of this one, it's Drive from 2011.
I haven't.
Okay, so just to give you a little bit of an insight, this stars Ryan Gosling, Carey Mulligan, Oscar Isaac, who I adore, and it's directed by Danish director Nicholas Winding Refn, known for his collaborations with Mads Mikkelsen, Tom Hardy, and of course Ryan Gosling.
Love.
Absolutely love. So this narrative follows Gosling's character, simply known as the Driver, a skilled Hollywood stuntman by day and a getaway driver for criminals by night. So this is definitely a neo-noir thriller that I absolutely adore. He's got a very cold exterior. However, this motion picture explores his relationship with his neighbour Irene, who's played by Carey Mulligan, and her young son, with her husband currently in jail. So it very much explores a dynamic of this getaway driver who you never know like what to expect next from him, but also this beautiful belonging of love and admiration for his neighbour, and it's just gorgeous.
That sounds so good.
If you want to watch this one, you'll be happy to know it is free to watch on ITVX, and it's been very heavily advertised as one of the most brilliant films on the streaming platform, and I adored it. And it's also streaming on Netflix, but I've got a really personal backstory to this film because it's actually the first ever film I watched with my boyfriend actually on our way home from Greece, which was nearly a year ago today, and it was he is an avid
Happy 1 year.
Thank you. he is an avid Ryan Gosling fan, so it was really nice to sort of share that, because our flight didn't even have like those TVs that you could watch anything on. So he was
on
like,
the back of the
on the back of the chairs, which obviously it was like a short haul flight, so it was in like 2-3 hours, but it was just really nice to just sit and cozy up and watch that. But it is absolutely brilliant, and with its hyper stylized blend of music, violence and striking imagery, I was instantly drawn into this perfect example of neo-noir, which is a genre I absolutely adore. I truly admired the soundtrack that perfectly captures the essence of the film. And to give you, Affinity, and all of our listeners a little bit of insight into Drive, our first song today on Showtime Central is Nightcall by Kavinsky. Nightcall by Kavinsky there, taken straight from Drive, which is one of my all-time favourite films. But we are now on to our weekend watch list segment, and as we all know, this is one of my favourite segments of the week. So up first this weekend, I would highly recommend you all watch The Boys. So this is available on Amazon Prime and is a truly gory action that's one of my absolute favourites, and season 4 has wrapped production very recently on the 14th of April, and fans like myself have been eagerly anticipating this next instalment. This series has been running since 2019, and I've been a firm fan since its first debuted. Affinity, is this one you're aware of at all?
No, I have never heard of it.
You've not heard of it?
No.
Okay, cool. So this follows a gang of superheroes in a society where they are as popular as celebrities, as influential as politicians, and even admired as some by gods. But that's when they're using their powers for good. So what happens when these heroes go rogue and start abusing their powers, forced to work for $1 million conglomerate called the Seven? That's exactly what you'll find out. So the series opens with the Seven looking to fill a vacancy within this superhero team. Imagine the Avengers, but if they were all like, oh my god, like ridiculously like corrupt.
Yeah.
Imagine like them, but like a group of 7 of them, and they're all corrupt. They're looking to hire a new recruit, and she's called Annie January, who is played brilliantly by Erin Moriarty, who has a superhero alias known as Starlight, and she is one of my all-time favourites. But you've got this gang of 7 superheroes who are do-gooders in the community, I'm using air quotes here, but they're actually behind the scenes all with massive rivalries with each other. And spoiler alert, if you don't mind, in series 3 you actually find out that none of them were born with these superpowers. They're all actually just using basically drugs. And
I want to watch
it. It is so
intriguing.
good. I honestly would really recommend it. It's inspired by the comic series that was published by Garth Ennis and stars Anthony Starr, Carl Urban, Jack Quaid, the brilliant Erin Moriarty, Simon Pegg and Chase Crawford, to just name a few of the many stars in this brilliantly absurd series. This is definitely one to include in your weekend watch list if you haven't already seen it. I will warn you, the levels of gore are ridiculous from the get-go.
I like the gore,
and
though.
there's one that's got like superpower speed, and he is brilliant, but within like the first 10 minutes of it, he has run through Huey, who is played by Jack Quaid's girlfriend, and he is left just holding her decapitated arms. So you can imagine the levels of gore in this one, but it is one of my absolute favourites that I really think you should give a try. As I said, there is currently 3 series on Amazon Prime, with the 4th coming soon, hopefully, because it's just wrapped. But obviously with the sheer amount of levels of special effects in it, it may be a little while, but definitely one to include on your weekend watch list. My next one is also inspired by a series of comics, and this one is Sweet Tooth. Have you heard of this one?
I haven't.
Ooh, some new ones this week for you.
Is.
These are all some of my favourites this week, so it's really nice to be able to do this segment and be able to recommend stuff to you. I absolutely adore it. So you'll be happy to know that this one is available on Netflix, which I know you have. And this series origins stems from a series of comic books written and drawn by Jeff Lemire and published by DC Comics. So despite not being a motion picture, this does exist in the DC franchise.
Yes.
And I will admit, I'm not the biggest fan of DC. I'm definitely a Marvel girl, and I'm very excited for Guardians of the Galaxy, which came out yesterday. Oh my goodness.
Monday.
I cannot wait. Yeah, I'm going to watch it Monday, hopefully. But yeah, not being the biggest DC fan, I will say this is one I really had resonance with and adored. So just to give you a little bit more of insight, this stars Christian Conovey, Nonslo Anazzoni, Adil Atkar and Neil Sandilands, and this series first debuted back in 2021, with the second series recently dropping on the streaming platform. I am yet to watch this second series, as I've been watching watching a couple of other things, one of which I'm just about to recommend. But I'm definitely looking forward to getting back into this otherworldly adventure. I loved the first series. So just to give you a little bit more insight about the narrative, it's set in a post-apocalyptic world, which we all know I love. You know how much I've banged on about stuff like The Last of Us. And it follows a young boy called Gus, who's half boy, half deer, known as a hybrid, who leaves his home in the forest to explore the outside world that he's been sort of crowded away from and been like, no, it's too dangerous. But adventure is out there and he's going to go and find it. So the outside world has been left severely damaged after a cataclysmic event. We don't really know much about this event, but I'm hoping series 2 goes back to the origins of it all. He joins a ragtag group of humans and hybrids like himself, searching for a sense of belonging and an understanding of the mystery behind his hybrid origins. So I would highly recommend this otherworldly fiction to anyone who's a fan of the whimsical and wonderful and the unexpected. As I've said, I'm yet to watch series 2, but after enjoying the first of what Netflix had to offer from this comic book adaptation, I'm looking forward to seeing what's next in Gus's adventures. From what I've said, do you reckon this is one you'll include in your weekend watch list?
I think it might be.
It's brilliant.
Not as much as your first recommendation.
No, I would definitely say The Boys. Yeah. This one's more of like a PG family-friendly one, but still it's got those themes that you're like, oh, I want to know more and delve into. But speaking of wanting to be delved into something, my final pick this week is Severance, and I have been absolutely in love with this one. So this one's available on Apple TV, and this drama thriller has quickly become one of my favourites on the platform. So just to tell you who it stars, it's got Adam Scott, Britt Lauer, Zach Cherry, Christopher Walken and John Turturro, and this show first debuted last year in 2022. You might also be intrigued to know that this has been directed by Ben Stiller. I did not imagine him directing anything, especially something like this, obviously being known for his work on Zoolander and comedy things like Night at the Museum. But this takes a turn in his stylistic choices. I would highly recommend it if you're both a fan of The Office and Black Mirror. Obviously, those are on different sides of the spectrum, but the way this comes together, oh my goodness. It's definitely one for you to watch if you enjoy these two series. It follows Mark, played by Adam Scott, leading a team of office workers. And this sounds normal, right? You'd like to think.
Yeah.
That is until you find out that each of these workers have had their memories surgically divided between their work and personal lives. So when you're in the office working as what they call an innie, you only ever remember being there. So you leave in an elevator, you arrive and leave in an elevator, but when you go up to your floor of where you're working, you only ever remember being there. So you'll do your 9 to 5 shift, and then you won't sleep. Your innie.
I've heard of this.
Yeah, your innie does not know anything about your outside self. You don't know if you've got friends, you don't know if you've got family, you don't know where you live. You only ever remember working there. Imagine that. That is crazy.
Although the innie and outie terms is making me laugh a bit.
Yeah, to be fair. Honestly, it is absolutely brilliant. And I can't even imagine going to a workplace and only ever remembering my workplace. There's a beautiful relationship between some of the characters in a gay relationship, but who knows if they've got family on the outside? We never learn. We only ever get to see Mark's outside life, and it is crazy and corrupt. And
I want to try this.
It
sounds like something I'd
so good, and it is truly a brilliantly terrifying series with some of the depictions of the office and home life split as we begin to delve into a journey of self-discovery. Some of the direction from Ben Stiller is amazing. There's some scenes where it's sort of fractured, where one of them, I won't go too deep into it, but one of them's escaped and is trying to go back into his outer life, but has also been able to keep some of the work office life balance. And there's a scene where it's glitching between him seeing Mark in the office and then out of the office, and he's like, are you okay? And the way it's edited is so seamless, but it's these fracturing moments, and oh my god, it is absolutely consumed me, and I adore this series. Honestly, the journey of self-discovery is beautiful, and the use of liminal spaces within the office seem like they could go on forever. It is so cleverly constructed, and if you've ever wanted a Black Mirror story to continue on for more than an episode, this is definitely one for your weekend watch list.
I'm adding it to mine.
You definitely should. I'm really glad this section has resonance with you, though, that I'm able to talk about some of my favourite shows, and I absolutely love that we're able to offer that on Showtime Central. But our next song today will be Daydream in Blue from iMonster, taken straight from Severance. Daydream in Blue there from the brilliant I Monster, and I absolutely adore that track coming straight from one of my favourite shows at the moment, Severance. But we are now on to my second favourite segment of the week, and I love doing this one, and as you can all assume, this is my theatre segment. So this week I went to see a new play called Fawn on Tuesday night that tells a beautiful story of self-acceptance and belonging within a queer community. Our main character Ace identifies as he, they, and is currently sofa surfing, having recently landed on sofa number 13. With this being a play that was commissioned by a group called Cardboard Citizens, it highlights homelessness within the LGBTQ+ community, with an astonishing 24% of homeless young people identifying as part of the community. How do you feel learning this statistic and knowing that this theatre community has put together a piece that surrounds homelessness within this queer community?
It's honestly amazing.
It is,
Yeah.
honestly.
I've never heard of this.
No, I went into it quite blind.
Yeah.
It was one of my bloggers and critics ones, and I was like, ooh, this sounds good, because it was quite heavily marketed as magical realism, which I'll go on to in a second. But I knew it would be for me, but the way they dealt with the homelessness was gorgeous. Like,
It sounds like an amazing story.
It was. The set mainly focused around a sofa, which belonged to a straight cis couple actually, called Paige and Anthony, who Ace was staying with. But the way it focused and was so versatile with all the houses that Ace had managed to stay in, obviously with this being the 13th house, it was just brilliant. And the use of limited set design blew me away. The acting was absolutely impeccable, and with this being in the drum, it truly felt like the characters were talking to us when looking for a sense of hope and understanding in a world where discrimination was against them.
This sounds so
because
nice.
the opening monologue, it was brilliant from Ace, and just there were so many rhetorical questions as well, which was like an inner monologue from them. But the way they looked out to the audience, I can't repeat some of the words because a lot of them were swears, but they'd say something and then they'd be like, oh no, like sort of thing, like to us that the others couldn't hear, but we
So
could.
it was quite comedic.
Very, very comedic, which I wasn't really expecting.
Because this storyline and what it's about.
Having read the synopsis for it, I wasn't expecting it to be that comedic. But oh my goodness.
It's quite good though when things are comedic and you're not expecting it to be.
Yeah, because I explained
funny.
it to my family and they were like, oh, that sounds really hard hitting. I was like, no,
was
genuinely,
hilarious.
the way it was done, hilarious. And the comedic timing from some of them, absolutely impeccable, I will admit. So this was the first drum show I'd ever seen, apart from the Wampanoag Takeover that I talked a little bit about last week, that had more than one performer. So I've seen Breathless and Fanboy that were just one-person shows, and these were absolutely gorgeous pieces, and the drum is usually used for one-person shows, but having seen these collective ones, I'm starting to see how this can be used as a space for up-and-coming productions that don't yet have the potential to be something as big as the lyric.
I mean, it's so good
But
to expand
it's
your
so good.
Obviously,
Yeah.
you were just into the One Piece shows on the drum, but now you're like into all these other ones.
Yeah, I absolutely loved seeing a bigger ensemble within the drum. So I will admit that equal credit has to go to H. Wiley as Ace, Naya Randon playing dual roles as Paige and Doe, and my absolute favourite performer of the night, Afton Moran, playing 3 roles, taking the helm as Ant, Plant and Stag. And you're probably thinking, why is he played a plant? So there was this beautiful scene of self-discovery where Ace discovered a place called the Queer Forest. And this is where that sense of magical realism came in, because you're probably thinking, why is it called Fawn? And this was because in the narrative, in Ace's world, it's flight, fight or fawn, with the third option being that outward expression of emotion and anxiety that I definitely resonated with. As you can see, I might not be growing horns in a tail or even be part of the queer community, but this story was definitely one of community and belonging, and this narrative was one that taught you to be loud and proud, accepting our most authentic selves. And I adored it. Being someone who struggles with anxiety, and I will happily, openly say that because it's not something to be afraid of.
Absolutely.
I really found a sense of belonging despite being a she, they, straight, cis person. Genuinely, the amount of people I have in the community, it was gorgeous to see them getting a creative space to thrive.
That sounds like such
and
a
especially coming to
performance.
Plymouth, it was brilliant. And this whole Queer Forest thing, honestly, I will admit, Afton Moran playing Stag looked like he stepped straight off the runway of RuPaul's Drag Race, complete with glitter antlers and absolute platform heels.
That.
Absolutely slayed the stage. He was absolutely insane and brilliant in this role. But no, it was one, that is why I love my bloggers and critics scheme so much, because this isn't something I would have seen if I didn't.
If you weren't on it.
If I weren't on it. honestly, same with like the Wampanoags takeover and stuff. These are shows that I wouldn't have found myself going to, and I really do adore my scheme for that.
It's such an amazing opportunity.
It's such an amazing opportunity because
expand.
I will admit, before that, I would only go to like major shows. So like Heathers, I would have seen anyway. But obviously, I got to see it as part of it, which I'm so lucky for. But I would have only ever seen stuff like that and like Waitress and Sister Act, like the big Broadway West End shows that are coming to us. But it's just given me such a space of expression to write about these smaller shows that deserve so much recognition. And honestly, the way that Cardboard Sisters brings homelessness into this narrative is truly one to be adored. There were a lot of songs that really played into the comedic value of this. A couple from Lizzo, which I absolutely loved, and a couple from Doja Cat as well. But I have picked one that wasn't in the performance, but really plays into the themes of the LGBTQ plus community that I adore. And this is Boys, Girls by Panic at the Disco. Enjoy.